Hi guys, in this video we're going to be doing the second task for this CSC315 assignment, which is write a program to generate average and square of an even number between 1 to 1000. Okay, so if you're just joining, there's a video for the first assignment already. Yes, so the link would be here, so you can go watch it if you haven't. So for this one, let's get to it. So we are to calculate we are to create a program that would generate the average and square. So we want to get average and want to also get square of even numbers. These even numbers will be between 1 and 1000. Okay, so we're just going to write it. So the program must be interactive because we want it to be interactive. That's why I'll be doing it in like two separate ways to solve it. So the first one is not really too interactive because we're just calculating one constant value, right? But the second one would just be interactive and ask you if you still want to calculate it again, and then it would. The second one would be based on the first one. Okay, so let's get started. So for this one, I would create a file and I'll say calculate even numbers .c. Okay, so I call it cal even num.c. So like we did before, we would use the include stdio.h because I'll be using some functions in this particular header. Okay, and then for this one we won't have any helper function. We'll have our function in our main function. Okay, so we can also do it this way. Sorry, yes, we can do our main like this. Okay, so it's always good to just put void if you are not passing any parameters to your main as well. Okay, so the first thing is we're going to have um, an int. We're going to have an int which will be sum. Okay, so we're going to have a sum because we want to calculate the sum, the average, and also the square sum, right? We want to calculate the average and the square sum. So we have an int sum and would initialize it with 0. Okay, we can put comma and use count. So a count, I would explain why we need count as well, because each even numbers, for example, if we are to get the sum of the average even numbers for looking at its generate average and square of an even numbers. So if we want to get for 1 to 10, it will start from 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? So it will be 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 10. So while we go through that 2 will be 1, 4 will be 2. So that count will be counting how many, and then we can use it to get the average because the average will be the numbers of that even number, the sum divided by the total number you get. So the count would be needed in that part. So the second thing is the squares. The sum of the square is going to be a very large number. Because it's going to be a very large number, using int will not be nice to save that number. So what we use is a guy called long. So we use long. Okay, long, and then we say this one is square sum. Call it square sum. Okay, and we'll give that one to 0 because we've not added it yet. So so this long is used to store large values. Good. So let us calculate the sum and the square sum. Okay, okay, so the link to this code would be in the description, so you can check it out on the GitHub repo. Okay, so you can check it out. So let's continue. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to make use of a for loop. Okay, so you can use a while loop though. So we use a for loop. I prefer for loops. They are easier and simpler. So we can declare it here. We say int I is equals to 2. Okay, so what I'm doing here is that my even number would start from 2, so I'm giving I a variable, like I'm declaring a variable here, that I is 2. Okay, so and then I would say the condition now is this for loop will continue as long as I is less than or equal to 1000. So I want this thing to go from 2 to 4 to 8 till it gets to 1000. Okay, how do I make it increment by 2? So what I will do is I will do this, and I will say the incrementation is that I every time this loop finishes, like the first time it finishes, it should increment by 2. So I'll say I plus equals to, that is, add 2 every time you are done with this, with the any iteration of this loop. Okay, so let me just make it clean. Put this one here. Good. Remove this one. Yes, good. So we have our for loop here, and yes. So the next thing we're going to do now is, now the for loop accept 3 arguments here. Sometimes it's 2. Um, we create the condition is here that as long as I is less than or equal to 1000, it should keep running this loop. This is a loop, and I will start from 2. So at the first time, this I is 2 and is less than or equal to, so all the code in this for loop will run. So until it gets to 100 and it's passing 100. It gets to 1000 and it's passing 1000. Okay, so basically that's it. So the next thing we're going to do is we'll say the sum. We want to be summing up, like, for example, um, 0 to 10. If we are to get the average sum, right, we're going to do 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus, you understand, and then that sum would be the one that will now divide by the amount of even numbers that we have, you get. So sum will now be plus equals to I. So at first, sum is 0, right? Sum is 0 here. So sum is 0 at first. So we'll add whatever I is, which is 2 at first. So we'll add 2 to 0. It becomes 2. The second time, I would have become 4, and then we'll add 4 to that 2 again. You understand? So it keeps increasing till it gets to 1000. We add it. Okay? So that's what sum does, and sum is good to go. So this one is to add even numbers to sum. So this one adds to sum. Okay, good. So the next thing we're going to do is we'll do for the square sum. Yes, the square sum. I think this is it. So the square sum too will be plus equals to. Okay, so we want to be adding something. What are we adding? We are adding 2, which is I, times I, right? I times I, which is the square sum. That is, at each time we want to square it. The sum for each squared even number is being added to this square sum. So square sum is 0. At first it becomes 4. At the second time, 4 times 4, we add 16 to it. At the third time, 6 times 6, we add 36 to it, right? And it goes on like that. So that is what this one does. So it adds square of even numbers. So let me just comment that. Adds square of even numbers. Okay, so we're good with that. So the next thing is the count, right? Count, we could write count as each time this loop runs, we want to add it that, okay, it has counted, like at the instance of 2, it will add 1 to it. When it goes to the next one, it will add another 1 to it. So we could say count plus equals to 1, okay, or we could just say count plus plus, anyone we wish to do. So this one will just count the even numbers. This one will count the even even numbers. Okay, good. So that would count the even numbers. So at the end of this loop, by the time it now passes 1000, it will exit this loop, but these 3 guys would have been filled up, right? So now we need to now calculate the average number. So we need to calculate the average. Sorry, we need to calculate the average of the sum, right? So we need to calculate the average of the sum. And to calculate the average of the sum, we can use a float because we might be getting a decimal point, right? So we'll call it average, okay? So sometimes most times it's good to just declare it here and just say float average, and then we didn't initialize it, and this place we could just call that average, okay? So to make your code clean. All right, so average would then become equals to um, the sum. I'll explain why I put this in code first. So the average, normally we just want to do sum divided by, that is whatever this sum would have been. Sum, that's the addition of all the even numbers divided by the count, that is how many times it appears, right? So um, we want to convert it to help it return as a float as well. Float is just decimal points anyway, by the way. So then the last one is just to display our results. So display results. So for the previous one I did, for the write a program to determine whether a year. So I will just do one more explanation for those who are still finding it hard. So this explanation will be top notch and you would definitely understand. So let me go back to the code. So I think we are here. Yes. So we want to display this. This we use printf, right? That's what we use to display it. And then we can say the average of even numbers from 1 to 1000 um, is, we can say is, sorry, is, and then so we can just give our answer to, because we want to return a float, we say a float, right? And then a new line, okay? But the float we can, because float would give us in so many decimal places, I think up to 8 or so, so we can reduce that decimal places by saying 0.2 to 2 decimal places, okay? So that float that we want to return here, right, would put comma here and say that what should be that float. So the average of it will be average, so average here is semicolon, right? So that's it. So we'll also print the second guy, printf, which is the sum of square of even numbers, right? The sum of squares, sorry, squares of even numbers. So the sum of squares of even numbers from 1 to 1000 is, and then percent. For this one, it is a long decimal. So because it's a long decimal that we want to, the square sum, that's what we want to display. And then we just come here, probably give it a new line, and then comma, and then what should be here? It is square sum, right? So write square sum, good, and then end it with a semicolon. And then once we're done, we can just return 0. Good. So we have this, and that is the end of this code. So let us test our code and see. So GCC, what's it called? Cal, and then output as cal even number 1. Okay, so let us run cal even number 1. So you say the average of sum of 1 is 501, and then the sum of square of even number from 1 to this is 1671. Alright, so let us now do the interactive one, just so we can follow along. So for the interactive one, we could say call even number 2.c, right? Yes, so we'll do our regular guy, which is include stdio.h, good, and then so for this one would first use we'll be using a helper function. Your helper function could also be at the bottom of your that, let's just follow the normal method, and I will just explain probably at the end of the video. Okay, we can put void here because no parameter is being passed to this main as well. Okay, good. So this is the main, and let's come down and declare an helper function just like the one we did here, this guy over here. This is exactly what we want to do here as well. So I could just copy this guy, right? I could copy it, or let's just do it ourselves. So the next thing we'll say is a void because we are returning nothing, right? And then we'll say this one will calculate even number. So we'll say calculate even numbers, okay? And then you can give this one here. Good. So the first thing is we have our int sum, right, which is 0, and then we have our count, which is also 0. Next thing we're going to do is we'll prompt the person because we want it to be interactive, right? So so we want to say print f, print to the person and say the square of even numbers between 1 and 1000. So we'll print like an header, new line, and then end that. Okay. For this one, I like giving space between these guys. So let me just come to the end. And yes, so we have that. So we'll start that, and we'll say this will be like the header, and we'll say the for loop. Remember, we'll create an int and say I is equals to 2, where it will start, and then also would create the condition, which will be as long as I is less than or equal to 1000, right? And then would go to the next one, which is I should then increase by 2, I plus equals to 2. Okay, good. So the conditions, so it will print, we can then print we can print, let's see, print f this %d raised to power, oh sorry, I'm printing outside, so it has to be inside the quote, %d raised to power 2, yes, equals to %d new line. Okay, and then say comma I comma I times I. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're telling it to print whatever 2 is, and also print the multiplication of or the square of both i's, right? It's printing it, so it will make our output much more robust. Okay, so we are saying that it should replace this guy to this guy, right? And also the square, right, to this, right? It should replace this other guy with this guy. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. And then the next thing we'll say is sum, which is what we're doing before, and we'll say sum is plus equals to I, right? So we are adding 2 plus 1 or count plus plus. Good, so we're good with that one. All right, so now it would now print the process for us. Like this one will print the process of how it's been calculated, how it's all the loop iteration will be printed for us. And then the next thing is we come down and say we declare a average. We can use declare an average and call it double. You can use a double. Double is much more better than int. Double average. Yes, and then we'll use the double here. sorry, we use the average here. Okay, so we use the average here, and we'll call the average and say average equals to the average number now. So we are not using long now. You can also use double because the um, output is not that long, right? So we say sum, and then we can say sum divided by what's it called? We'll say sum divided by count, right? So we have our count plus plus already. Good. So we'll say sum divided by count. That's the average. So the average will be sum divided by count. But this one we still need to convert it to a double. So it's different between the double and the floats. Yes, so we'll change that to a double as well. And then we'll print f. So we'll print this and say maybe a new line first, and say the average of even numbers and then we can say percentage 0.2f, which is we want to print a float, and then a new line, right, and then comma here, and then we want to say the average should be here. Okay, average. Fine. So we've done this, and I think we are good to go. So this function now, what it will help us do, is going to help us calculate all we need, right? And then print out the average already, right? So what do we need? We just need the sum total, right? We just need the sum total. Yes, that's all we need for this one. So for the sum total, we can just come here and say character choice, just like we did before, and then come down and we use the do while loop. Do while loop. We use the do while loop, and for the do while loop, what are we going to do first? We calculate the even numbers. So we'll first calculate the even numbers, and then we'll print. Do you want to calculate again? So we'll print f and say, do you want to calculate again? Okay, so we can make it say yes or no, like we did before. Oh, sorry. Yes or no should be in quotes as well. Yes, so it should be like this. Yes or no. So the condition would be while choice is equal to yes, or or choice is equal to capital letter yes. So we're not done with the do, so we have to accept the input as well from the person. So we use scan f, and so sorry about that. We use scan f and we say, sorry, this person has disrupted what I was doing. So we use scan f and say yes in quotes percent C, and don't forget when we're using percent C, we add space here and then comma, and then what do we want to accept in percent C? We want to accept the choice. We use the and choice. Okay, good. So we accept this, and that would be all for that. So square of, I think we didn't calculate for this one we didn't calculate the square sum. Okay, the square sum is being calculated. Yeah, it's being printed, but we didn't calculate. So we can print that one as well and say we can use long. We can see use long square sum. you can use long square sum, give it 0, and then at this place we'll say square sum plus equals to I times I. Yeah, so sorry guys, I got so many messages from people trying to call me. Alright, so the sum, let's just use this guy for this part. I hope you are still following. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section, so I can help you out. So the sum of this is, yes, so I added the square sum here, and I added it here, and I think that's all for now. So let me continue with the stuff. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we can then so sorry about that. I got so distracted, and some people were calling me. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. So sum of the squares of even numbers from 1 to 1000 is this, and I added the square sum here. And what we'll do to end our program here is come down here, and we can just print F. Once the person says um, no or any other thing, we'll just print program exited. So program exited. Okay, program exited, and probably new line, and return 0. Okay, so let us test this program, because even me, there were so many. So GCC calculate even number 2. Let's see, the output should be cal2, and then let us run cal2. So if you look at it, the average is this, the sum square of even number from 1 to this is this. So we have the 2, and they said, do you want to calculate again? But if you look at it, it calculated and printed all the what's it called, the even numbers, as you can see, and it says raised to power 2 is what is this. Okay, so to say this one raised to power 2 and then give us the value straight down. So this one will print everything and also give us the total number. So if I say yes, wait, do you want to calculate? If I say yes, enter. Wait, why is it not calculating? Where's our ampersand? C. So sorry. Yes, correct the choice. Let me interrupt the program and try again. So when I say N, it says so while choice is Y or choice is this, do calculate. So yeah, it's supposed to, probably it has recalculated. So let me see. While this is yes, I don't know, I don't know why this is not working or recalculating. But anyway, probably because, let me see. Maybe it has already re-prompted. Let me increase this guy over here. So let's go. Let me come down again, clean my terminal. Let me close this, clear it. Okay, so ls, let's run that again, cal2. So we have this. If you press any other thing aside y, it should exit the program. Let us run it again. If we press y or y, I think it is running, but it's not prompting. Like it's not reprinting it. I don't know why. Yeah, I think it is. But anyway, if I press 4, it's going to exit the program. So that's basically how this one is supposed to work. If you have any question, I know this one is kind of long, and I might have to join these videos because I had to stop at some point, and because I was being called and distracted, and hope you understand, Sha. Anyway, see you guys.